Good evening, Hawks fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Atlanta Sports District. I'm your host, Russell Spence, coming to you directly after a 141-116 loss to the Los Angeles Lakers. Obviously, when you give up 141 points in a basketball game, the defense was bad. So let's get into it. Quite honestly, I thought it was an effort, a focus, and a lineup issue. My main issue with the lineups happened in the first half. The second half's lineups were not nearly as bad defensively, and that marked it out where instead of giving up 80 points in the half, we gave up 60. Not super great still, but a lot better. If it would have been 60 points and 60 points, then you obviously lose 116-120. Still not where we needed to be, but would have been better. The lineups fixed themselves a little bit in the second half, but the problem is that in the first half, especially the second quarter, we played lineups that were not able to get stops. And I call them so-and-so save us lineups. So for instance, we had a lineup tonight that was CJ McCollum, Veet, Corey Kispert, Mo, and Onyeka. Well, Onyeka played horribly defensively tonight. And then you look and you go, CJ McCollum, Corey Kispert, Veet. This is Mo, please God, save us. That's what this lineup is. Or there was another example where it was like CJ McCollum, Dyson, Veet, Asa, Onyeka. And you go, Dyson, please save us. That's what that lineup is. That's not a sustainable form of defense. If you're saying one player, please save this lineup, you're going to get run off the court in those minutes, and that happened, especially in the second quarter. They ran us off the court in the second quarter easily. We lost the game in the second quarter with those lineup decisions. And see, what happened was at the end of the first quarter, and I could see it on Quinn Snyder's face, he panicked. We had been playing very bad defense with the starters. And we pulled the starters in the middle of the first quarter and made our first substitutions. And we put in Mo and CJ. And the defense got better for a period of time. And then like the last minute and a half of the first quarter, Luka went on a little bit of a tear. And he just made 3 threes in a row. And we ended the first quarter on a little 9-3 run in the negative. And Quinn Snyder said, if they're going to give up all these threes, we got to get offense on the floor. And he put Asa on the floor, and it immediately went into Torchville, USA. We got destroyed, and we never came back from taking defensive positive lineups off the floor and putting on non-defensive positive lineups. Once that happened, the game was over. The lead stretched out to a point after that. So the second quarter happens, and they stretch it out to being a pretty sizable margin at halftime, and then in the middle of the third quarter, it reached its pinnacle of 32 points of deficit. After that, we put in Mo Gay, and we went on a huge run of terror. We brought it all the way back. We got it to 11 points at its best. 11 points from 32 points down with Mo Gay on the floor, and then we ran out of steam trying to come back. We had to take Mo Gay off the floor. The defense got bad again. And we'll get into it in the individual section, but a lot of people had a really pitiful defensive games tonight. And that, to me, was the biggest catalyst in us losing. The offense was not great. We'll get into that too. But the defense was absolutely horrendous. It was like vomit-inducing kind of defense tonight. And so, now moving offensively, we are struggling to create easy opportunities as an offense. And I said, and have said, that will continue to happen as long as we don't have an engine. I like Jalen. Jalen is not an engine. Jalen is a play finisher. He works best when he is catching the ball in an advantageous position and attacking the basket. When he does not get put in an advantageous position, the offense looks like it looked like tonight from Jalen. when he's having to create his own advantageous position, it doesn't work. So, that's something I would be looking to add, and I think it is kind of ironically funny that we had the best in general of basketball on our team, and we decided to trade him. I still don't really know why. If you had played defensive lineups around Trey, we wouldn't have these problems, and we would be able to play better defense. But instead, tonight was the first night since we've traded Trey that we put non-defensive lineups on the floor. We had been refusing to do that, but now, the offense is we gotta have the offense. No, NBA players are good enough to score. You'll be fine. Stop worrying about playing offense and stop people. Quinn, please learn to stop people. Only play lineups that stop people. That's it. If you do that, the offense will figure itself out because they're NBA players and will score enough points. But if we can make their life more difficult, we have a roster that is capable of doing that. For some reason, we refuse to. And that is coaching. Now, moving on to the player-by-player section. This is going to be a little bit of a rough one. Keaton Wallace played 4 minutes. He scored 2 points, looked terrible. That's all I've got to say. Moving on to Asa Newell, he played 10 minutes. Adding to another time when Asa plays more than 10 minutes, 10 or more minutes, we have a very, very bad record. Stop giving him minutes. He scored 0 points on 1 shot. He had 1 rebound and 2 assists with 2 fouls. Really great statistics there. Really helped the offense, it seems like. Quinn, that makes sense. Good job, buddy. And he finished the game -9 in 10 minutes. That tells you everything you need to know. Stop playing that guy. He's not ready. Put him in the G League. Go and figure out what you're going to do about playing other posts if KP's not going to be here. Sign a 10-day hardship guy. If you've got a long-term injury from KP and a long-term injury from N'Faly Dante, you can sign a hardship contract. Go do that. Figure it out. Do anything else. Stop playing Asa. He cannot defend at an NBA level right now. Stop doing it. Next, we'll talk about Mo Gay. Mo played 22 minutes. That's not enough. He had 5 points on a 104 shooting, 1 of 2 from 3, 4 rebounds and assist, but finished the game with 5 steals. Wasn't credited with a block, but he had multiple that should have been. He had 2 fouls and finished the game +4. But that +4 does not show you the true story because, again, he had that weird little thing at the end of the first quarter that hurt his plus-minus that should not, it was not his fault. Luka just made some superstar shots. We could have come back from it if we would have continued giving Mo more minutes. And he had the time at the end of the game when he's playing on the floor with Keaton and Veet and Asa, and they were getting blown off the floor because they're giving up wide-open threes. If you take those 2 things off, Mo ended the game like +20. He was +15 when I just checked on it before he went back in the game at the end of the game there in the garbage time. He was +15. I'm sitting here going, this guy wins his minutes every single game, and still in a game that you lost by an extraordinarily significant margin. We lost by 25 points, and Mo Gay was +4. That means when Mo Gay was off the floor, we lost by 29. And when he was on the floor, we won by 4 points. Play that guy more. I don't get it. I have been adamant with people who know me that Mo Gay would be my starting center right now. He would start for me. Because at the end of the day, he would play the most minutes as my center position. Because the responsibility, the role of a center is to be a defensive organizer. And in my opinion, I think it's very viable by the numbers, that the defensive organizer that is best at defensive organizing on our team is Mohamed Gay. And it's not close. I don't mean to be like this, but Onyeka has been disappointing defensively this season. I don't care about the offense from that position. That position literally is known. Their role is known as the defensive organizer. That's what they give you. How many Hall of Fame, amazing level centers stink at offense in the history of the NBA? You got people like Wes Unseld. You got people like Dikembe Mutombo, Horace Grant, Robert Parrish. These are not great offensive players. They're first ballot Hall of Famers, because the position of center is about being a defensive organizer. And that is what Mo Gay does better than anybody on our team, and it's not close. Play that guy more. He deserves more minutes. Next, we'll talk about Corey Kispert. Corey Kispert had 26 minutes. He scored 19 points on 6 of 11 shooting, 3 of 7 from 3. He had an assist with 2 turnovers. He didn't record a steal and a block, and he was minus 10. Kispert had some good moments and some really bad moments. Again, he was on the floor in those kind of save me lineups that really hurt us. But then he was also on the floor when we were making our run in the third quarter, and he was playing very well during that time. And so I think that, quite honestly, the defense is looking better than it was in Washington. The offense was very good tonight. I think Corey was fine, but I don't think that he is going to be an extremely positive player going forward. I think he's a positive bench player, but I've already seen discourse that's like, he needs to be starting, he's better than Richase, he's better than V. I hear this stuff. Stop. When Richase comes back, he's been playing amazing defensively and gives us good 3-and-D action. He's a very good player. He's the starter. But I do think that Corey Kispert is a very high positive role player and would be very helpful to continue to come off our bench and to give us minutes that way. Next, we'll talk about CJ McCollum. He had a rough game efficiency-wise. He played 27 minutes. He had 25 points on 11 of 23 shooting, 2 of 8 from 3, 1 rebound, 3 assists. Again, it was this kind of, he's playing hero ball at the end of shot clock possessions. He's getting a lot of turnovers from that. He did have a steal. He finished the game +2. Again, he's helping the offense kind of flow when he's on the floor, but there are times where he is falling into the trap of hero ball, and sometimes that can come from I don't really know what's happening in the system where people are going, what they're doing, what their job is. So I am going to ask for a screen. I'm going to try to go score. Sometimes that happens to players when they're a little bit confused and they're just I'm going to go with what I know. I think that's kind of what's happening with CJ. I think it'll get better over time, but there is a little bit of hero ball going on. Moving to the starters, Vik Krejci played 21 minutes. He had 11 points on 4 of 11 shooting, 1 of 7 from 3, 2 rebounds, 4 assists. I'm just going to keep saying it. He was minus 21. Very, 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 very not a starter looking player right now. He is looking rough in his starting minutes, especially against starting caliber players. They are kind of abusing him. And it was very bad tonight for V. And I hope that he, remedies that. But I just don't think he's a starting level player. And it's not working. And so I really hope we get Zach back soon. Or we make some sort of adjustment. In my opinion, the best starting lineup for right now would be Dyson Naw, Jalen at the 3, Onyeka at the 4, and Mo at the 5. That's what I would do. I would just say, Mo's a starting level player. V's not. Mo's a starter. And let the chips fall where they may. We're really going to stop some people. If Jalen's your 4th best and Onyeka's your 5th best defender in your starting lineup, you will be just fine defensively. Now, again, I would like to see us move towards having more of a traditional defensive organizer at center at all times. And that's the reason why I'm a little bit in favor of moving on from Onyeka. And we'll talk about that in the player-by-player section when we get to him. Next, we're going to talk about Dyson Daniels. Dyson played 33 minutes. He had 8 points, 4 of 6 shooting, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, no turnovers, and was minus 9. I thought Dyson could be more aggressive. They really didn't have any answers for him. When he attacked, he scored. And so I thought he could have been more aggressive. The defense on Luka is rough. He is not long enough to affect Luka's jumper is the problem. When Luka had longer players on him, the jumper did not work. And so that's where I'm like, Zach, he just plugs and plays and just guards Luka when Zach's in the game. We didn't have Zach, and so that made things really difficult on Luka. But I do think that Dyson's defense is very, very good still. He had a very good game defensively. It's just the length is a problem against specifically Luka. That's really the only player, him and Cade, are the two guys that their length is longer than Dyson's. And so they just kind of, they're longer, they're taller, that it's hard for him to get a hand in their face as much. And then they kind of shoot over a chair, as they say on the broadcast a lot. And that's what happened tonight. Next, we'll talk about Onyeka. Onyeka Okongwu played 33 minutes. He had 7 points on 3 of 8 shooting, 0 of 3 from 3, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, a turnover with 4 fouls, and was minus 22. Onyeka was really rough. And this is where, again, I'll talk about how, now it would not be this season, but I would be looking to move on from Onyeka Okongwu in the offseason. And the reason I say that is because I, again, think Mo Gay is a starting caliber defensive organizer. And so I would be moving in that direction. And also, you have to think that Onyeka's production has gone up significantly this season. And people are going to see that. He's a much better three-point shooter than he was. All of his numbers are improved from previous years in his career. It looks like he's really hitting his stride as an NBA player because he is. And this is the thing where you say, we have a better option. For what we need. We need a defensive organizer. If Jalen's going to be this level of defender for the rest of his career, which is not a very good defender, we're going to need a defensive organizer next to him that's a superstar. So we got to find that. If that's Mo, that can be Mo. If it's not, we can move on and try to find that too. But I think it's Mo. But we need a defensive organizer that's more of a traditional defensive organizer, and we can get significant value for Onyeka. That's the thing that I think people are missing, is that Onyeka Okongwu's contract is very, very, very team friendly. That to me signifies you trade him to a team that's maybe an expiring deal in the teens, kind of like Onyeka's. I believe Onyeka's is $13 million annually. You sit there and say, okay, we bring in a $13 million player. They're nowhere near as good as Onyeka. We're giving up, obviously, the better player. So you have to give us draft capital. And we actually want to move on from Onyeka. We don't think he actually matches our long-term identity, but you also just gave us 2 first-round picks for the privilege of us getting rid of a player we don't really need, i.e., the way we did with DeJounte Murray. The contract's value was lower than it should have been, and he had a stretch of games where he scored and looked good offensively, and we said, you're giving you the better player. You have to sweeten the deal with some picks, and we got Dyson, and we got Larry Nance, and we got multiple picks, and we got off of the player we didn't want for our future. That is what we need to do with Onyeka Okongwu in the offseason, in my opinion. I like Onyeka. I like Onyeka as a human. I'm not saying anything negative about Onyeka as the person. I'm saying for our team and our needs, because we have a team that is trying to move in a defensive manner. We're trying to move to being a more defensively minded team. That is not going to be Onyeka being a 6'8" center who his versatility is that he can pass the ball and move the ball and shoot the ball. That's the value he gives. So if a team is looking for that value, Onyeka is perfect. If a team like us is not looking for it, we don't need him. We need a defensive organizer. So now moving on, we're going to talk about Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He had 33 minutes, 26 points on 10 of 16 shooting, 5 of 9 from 3, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 fouls, and finished the game minus 37. Now, Nos shot the ball very well. The offense is very clunky right now when he's on the floor and Jalen's not on the floor. And so I think that could just be like he doesn't really understand where his teammates are going to be yet with CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. Also, he's just not a very good passer. That's kind of played out in the numbers and the eye test. He just really is not a great passer. And so we struggle to create good offense when we do not have a good passer like a Jalen on the floor. Jalen is right now acting as our engine. And so when he's not on the floor, it gets rough. And we didn't have Kennard to help create offense tonight because he had his little neck injury that was keeping him out. So that's the reason why the plus minus looks so bad. The offense became clunky, and he was on the floor in those times where we had some very negative defensive lineups. So clunky offense plus negative defensive lineups equals minus 37. And that's what happened tonight. I don't think Noah is nearly that bad, but that's what played out tonight. And I think that we could make a couple of small adjustments and that wouldn't happen, but the couple of small adjustments weren't made. Okay, lastly, we're going to talk about Jalen Johnson. He played 30 minutes. He had 13 points on 5 of 17 shooting, 1 of 7 from 3, 3 rebounds, 6 assists with no turnovers, 4 fouls, and finished the game minus 23. Jalen had his roughest game of the season. It was really bad. He was pretty awful, pitiful, terrible, whatever term you want to use, he was that. He couldn't make a layup. He couldn't make a 3. He was not aggressive. He was not confident. And to make up for all of that, he also was atrocious defensively. He was kind of head in the clouds, not paying attention, beat on multiple back cuts, not rotating, not boxing out, not doing his job. Worst game of the season for Jalen Johnson. I don't know if it's he's playing with his idol, playing against his idol in LeBron James. I don't know what it was. I don't think this is any proponent of what's to come for Jalen. He's been amazing all year, but if we're just looking at this one game, he was pitiful in this basketball game. Now, again, I don't project that to be the case going forward, but it really didn't help that we were getting a bad defensive outing from Onyeka, a bad defensive outing from Kispert and from Veit and from CJ and from Asa, and then also Jalen had his by far and away worst game of the year. That was rough. And so this is kind of one of those ones where you say, we hope we can sweep it under the rug, but you still have to make adjustments based on what you see, because there are things that are becoming, this is game 42. I mean, we have a pretty good sample size here. And the sample size that I'm seeing right now is that Jalen is not a very good defender at this offensive workload. So you have to make adjustments to help him. The same way you would make adjustments to help Trey. You have to make adjustments to help Jalen. And the best way to do that right now is to make sure that all of the best defensive players are on the floor at the same time as Jalen at a good clips of the game. The easiest way to do that is to adjust your starting lineup. Now, because Zach is out, to me that would be, as I said, Dyson, Nah, Jalen, Onyeka, Mo. When Zach came back, it would go for me Dyson, Nah, Zach, Jalen, Mo. That is the way I would do it, because then you have 4 very quality defenders in Dyson, Nah, Zach, and Mo, and then Jalen, who's making the offense kind of click and he's moving things. That's what I would do. That's how I would move forward, because, again, I'm seeing the need of the team. The need is that we protect Jalen defensively, because he's not been good defensively, except for when he's asked to do a small role. Like tonight, when he could just I'm guarding the guy in the corner, and if I throw at the guy in the corner, I close out or I pick it off. When that happened, he played good on defense. He had a good defensive stretch during those times. When he had to be a person who's, I'm rotating and I'm doing this and I'm having to box this guy out and I got to be on a back cut. When he's got that much defensive going on and he's having this kind of offensive workload, it is not going well. So take away his defensive workload by playing better defenders around him. Thank you. That's all I ask. Do that, because that's what you should have done for Trae Young. But we have never done that for some reason. Now, moving forward, we play Portland next. Last game of our West Coast trip, and it is on Thursday at 10 p.m., another late start, so another late podcast. After that, we've got a little bit of a easier run of games, they would say, but every game in the NBA you can lose. So we've got to, address the problems that are becoming more frequent, and we need to make adjustments. Make adjustments continually throughout the year make adjustments. Don't just say, well, this person was playing really well, so he's going to be the guy for the rest of the... No. If he's not getting it done, he doesn't need to play. I mean, look at what we just had with Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard was not getting it done. He was unable to guard a parked car. He was a turnstile. And then all of a sudden, we give him a DNP. He comes back in. The defense is much better. He's much more aggressive from three. He's a much more positive player. Maybe sometimes when you have these guys and you say, you're not playing because you're not playing defense. I'm not saying that, it would go for an extended period of time, but like right now, Veet's defense is very, very bad. When Luke comes back and when Zach comes back, it might be that Kispert and Luke take all those minutes and Veet gets a DNP. That might be what we need to light a fire under him. That's what I would be thinking. I would say, how can I make this player understand what we need from him? How can we make Onyeka play harder on defense or be more engaged on defense? How can we make Veet be more engaged on defense? How can we make CJ be more engaged on defense? These players that are struggling defensively, you gotta ask those questions. How can we make them, change how they're playing? But like I said, on Thursday, we play the Trailblazers, and then we come back east and hopefully can have a little successful run after making some of these adjustments. With all that being said, I hope you like, comment, and subscribe to the video. Share the video with a friend. Let me know your thoughts on everything we got going on. And above everything else, I hope you have a great day.